Tuborowski. As yet another 9/11 anniversary rolls around, United States warlust in the Middle East is not yet satisfied. So again, the U.S. is ramping up for another war in Iraq. You'd think the lesson would have been learned by now, that it's all useless imperial warmongering, but apparently not. And to top the irony, this time around it's being launched by the anti-war senator of 2003 with his anti-war secretary of state of 1973, now turned into predictable DC saber rattlers. There's just something about donning an imperial toga of the American empire that works a certain biochemical alchemy that will turn even Gandhi into Caesar. We're told that this time there will be no American boots on the ground, or as few as possible. This was what Lyndon Johnson said in 1964, take it for what it's worth. And the rhetoric over Iraq is exactly the same as in 2003. We left too soon. We didn't complete the job. All the standard tropes of empire. To baristas, the mission will never be accomplished or completed, because while common folk work from dawn to setting sun, an emperor's work is never done, nor can it be. Revolting against empire is as much a part of human nature as creating one. Now, I am not endorsing ISIS or ISIL or whatever it may choose to rename itself in the future. They are not good people, rather an Islamic Khmer Rouge or Muslim Ku Klux Klan. But essentially, they are not ideological. This may sound counterintuitive. But if you look at them, they're just young thugs with guns, with Islam as the cover of convenience for what's really just common looting, pillaging, and bloodlust. That's why damning Islam through the deeds of ISIS is only more Western posturing. The Khmer Rouge had little to do with the economics Marx analyzed in the British Library, as the KKK has little to do with the Sermon on the Mount. Like all such groups, ISIS is parasitic. It doesn't build anything. When you see video clips of them rampaging through Iraqi or Syrian streets in tanks, remember they did not, nor could they, build those tanks, nor any other weapon system they use. They did not construct those cities, build the houses or shops or neighborhood communities, telephone poles or paved streets, or any of the infrastructure where they rule and ruin. Like Somali warlords, or Mexican drug gangsters, or Wall Street raiders, they have nothing useful to offer mankind and have no other purpose than to take over the products of other people's labor. That said, we see the United States behaving just like them. When Joe Biden righteously rants that their place is in hell and the U.S. intends to chase them there for killing unarmed, defenseless Americans, he conveniently ignores how much like them he sounds, how much his hate-filled diatribe echoes the videotaped executioners of Stephen Sotloff and James Foley. Although it may even have occurred to the Vice President in his more honest moments, alone in the toilet, to use Nikita Khrushchev's phrase, that ISIS executioners may feel as righteous as himself after the killing of their own families by U.S. bombing and occupation over a decade. But, after all, it's an Orwellian thought felony in the first degree to articulate such a concept, isn't it? The United States simply has no moral high ground in bringing another round of cruise missile justice to the people of Iraq. Iraq's persecuted Yazidi minority, trapped on their mountain like the Armenians of Musadag a century ago, is no doubt grateful for any rescue from ISIS, but the Kurds of Turkey or the people of Central America would have loved deliverance from their own pro-US, pro-NATO executioners as well. None was forthcoming because, as we know, there are in the Western conscience good genocides and bad genocides. Bad genocides are done by anti-Western forces. Good ones are perped in the name of saving Western civilization and its values. If I'm not mistaken, even Hitler used the same rhetoric in 1941. Anyway, in combating ISIS transnational terror, you can bet good money that no one in Washington will allude to South America's Operation Condor. This was the international death squad organized in the Southern Cone through the CIA, specializing in the rendition and execution of dissidents, terrorist militants, outside normal legal challenge, just like the Joint Special Operations Command launched by Cheney and Rumsfeld in Iraq and continued by Obama and Biden. So, does this criticism mean the world must stand by while ISIS/ISIL runs rampant south of the Turkish border? Well, to baristas, it stands idly by for many other massacre spots and perpetrators, a few of which I've already mentioned, and the Western powers not only facilitate, but directly and openly perpetrate their full share of them. For all the suffering dished out to the people of Iraq and its neighbors in 20-plus years of Saddam Hussein, the U.S./world community dished out an equal amount in its bombings, embargoes, and occupations. But if ISIS is to be conveniently singled out as an example of evil, the best way to handle it is to cordon off its control zone. Forget about restoring the authority of the colonial satellite regime that's been crumbled by the ISIS rampage. That's gone. as is the sovereign identity of Iraq. To man the borders of ISIS land with a truly global coalition of armed forces that will prevent any further expansion and choke off the territory it now controls will see the parasite ISIS regime wither on its vine of fresh blood and loot. This is the only way of waging war, if the wages of war are to be paid out again, to the long-suffering people of this region. At the moment, this seems to be the strategy in operation. I could only wish it were led by morally credible forces other than the United States. How to inflict its third, or is it fourth, devastation on Iraqi soil. In tandem with this is the idiotic idea that arming the moderate Syrian rebels will form a counterweight to the ISIS of Syria. Of all three groups in contention for control of Syria, the moderates, the fundamentalists, and the Syrian government, this allegedly pro-Western moderate army has the lowest demographic balance of any of them. All the Western arms it can carry will not turn the tide in a two-front war against Assad or ISIS. This loopy logic otherwise makes the White House appear to be run by the National Rifle Association, not thoughtful, deliberating statesmen. But maybe the latter is too much to ask for. Why is the YouTube line conveniently going off in the middle of another video? All right already. Hello? Why, it's Tecumseh, the original Che Guevara Red Menace, leader of the Native American jihadis fighting the U.S. invasion and occupation of their homeland 2 centuries ago. What's that, Chief? You hope that ISIS really gives it to the wide-eye infidels because they have it coming? Well, I hear you. But most of the scalps ISIS is taking are fellow brown men, not the pork-fed yellow hairs you so despised. What's that? You say maybe so, but the beef-belly wide-eyes are the last people to complain about massacre and bloodshed of the innocent? Well, you got a point there, Chief. Even if the National Security Agency of the United States can argue its way out of that load in its ear.